Hari Om. Chapter 17 is an elaboration of the Daivi and Asuri Pravritti which has been talked about in chapter 16, which is the noble and ignoble qualities which everyone has in greater or lesser degree. Now these two ways of choosing our path or our personality types is always with us, the choice, and the elaboration of it is that the Sattvic personality is of course the Daivi personality, and the Rajasic and Tamasic is inclined more towards the Asuri. With this elaboration in chapter 17, Bhagwan has to answer Arjun's question. His very first question in chapter 17 is Ye Shastra Viridhi Mrit Srujya Yajante Shraddhayanvitaha. Arjun says there are so many people who perform their rituals and they perform elaborate religious practices, and with lot of faith. We cannot even say that they are faithless people, with a lot of Shraddha and faith, and yet we don't know. So Krishna, please answer, their personality will be inclined more towards Sattva, Rajas or Tamas. Tesham nishtha tu ka Krishna Sattva maho Rajas tamaha. This is a very intellectually curious question, because we can see around us there are people who are involved in very elaborate, rigorous ritualistic exercise and in the name of spiritualism, in the name of religion. But are they going to be Sattvic or Rajasic? So in the second verse, Bhagwan answers very easily. Bhagwan says the answer is easy. Trividha bhavati shraddha Shri Bhagavan uvacha. Trividha bhavati shraddha dehinam sa swabhavajaha. They are not aware of the scriptures for whatever reasons, and therefore they may not be inclined towards an unfoldment of their spiritual life. They may not be inclined to know the deeper truths about what is this jiva, this body-mind complex. What is the nature of Jagat? Is it real? Is it unreal? They don't ask these questions, and therefore how do they behave? What is their personality? Bhagwan says, Dehi namsa swabhavajaha. Unka jo swabhav, जो millions and thousands of years से आया हुआ है स्वभाव, वो उस स्वभाव को बस follow करते हैं. So it's like not being fully awake or aware of our actions and reactions, but just acting out of our swabhava, because the imprint of the swabhava has already been etched in our memory, and in the way we are born with that swabhava. So we just act, though these people act out of their swabhava. So do they act in full wakefulness? कि अरे मैं ये सत्व या मैं रजस या मैं तमस में पढ़ रहा हूँ? No, there is no such contemplation or questioning in their mind, because they haven't been exposed to scriptures, and therefore the warning of the scriptures and how to climb the ladder up from tamas, rajas and sattva, all this they have not learned. Why? Why have they not been exposed to the scriptures? Well, the reasons are so many. Sometimes people are just indifferent to it, or they are resisting, they resist it actively, saying, no, this is not for me. Or the excitement and the activities of the world are so many that there has been no chance in our lives to choose this alternate path of knowing something else beyond the material world of family and profession and wealth and earning and accumulation and luxuries and comforts. We have more and enough of all this, and yet we are not looking beyond it, because the excitement is still there, and we think that in the next excitement and in the next activity we will find that complete fulfillment. Why are we looking for complete and permanent fulfillment? Because that completeness and fulfillment is our very nature. We are actually looking for our true nature, but we are looking in the wrong place, and therefore not being exposed to the scriptures in this way, the people who are not exposed to scriptures, they act just ordinarily out of their swabhava, whatever the imprint of the swabhav. Dehi namsa swabhavajaha. Krishna says, yeah, it's as simple as that. Satviki rajasi chaiva tamasi cheti tam shrunu. But Bhagwan says, because you're listening to the scriptures, Arjun, I want to tell you, cheti tam shrunu. You must listen to the qualities of the Sattvic, Rajasic and Tamasic, and the consequences of each type of adopting each type of personality, because these consequences will give you the choice to climb higher or to remain stagnant or to fall lower in the spiritual path. And only people who are listening to the scriptures have the privilege of making this choice of listening to Krishna. So Arjun says, Chaititam Shrunu, listen to me, Arjun, because you deserve to listen to the scriptures. Having said this, Krishna says that जिसकी जैसी श्रद्धा होती है वैसा उसका स्वभाव बन जाता है, which means that if we believe that there is happiness in the sukh and the sampatti and the aishwarya and naam and samman and badhai which we get in the world for whatever achievements we have, उसमें हमारी पूरी श्रद्धा हो जाती है कि हाँ अब मुझे यही गेन करना है, लेकिन कब तक? नहीं, हमें यही गेन करना है। हम सब उसमें अंत तक पड़े रह सकते हैं और रहते भी हैं। वैसे इसमें ये श्रद्धा जो होती है ना कि इस जगत का सुख is the end of our goal, or what about afterlife? If they ask, they say, हाँ मैं थोड़े से पुण्य काम भी कर लूंगा और थोड़े से religious rituals और यज्ञ भी कर लूंगा, as they have been ordained in the scriptures, and therefore I will go to Swarga. Now Swarga, which means it's a place where the soul will lie in limbo. It will not gain a material body in this Mrityu Lok. We are living in Mrityu Lok. Why Mrityu Lok? Because the end of our bodies will end in Mrityu. Now in Swarga Lok, if we have earned enough punya, we will remain there for some time in bliss. That Swarg ka bliss जो है ना, उसके लिए लोग कहते हैं, yes, that is Satya. But that also changes. We have to come back when the punya is over, come back to Mrityu Lok to complete all our karma and the karmic consequences. Such people who have Shraddha in the Sukh of this world and the Sukh of Swarga, well, that's what they chase. उनकी उसमें ही श्रद्धा है. And there are some people who say कि भाई क्या रखा है? Why don't we just dress up and shop and wear nice jewelry and buy new cars and eat, drink and entertain a lot of people and enjoy the entertainment of other people, or laze or sleep or shop as much as we want and travel. उसमें क्या है? हमारी श्रद्धा है कि उसमें ही हमारा सुख है. ठीक है, तो ये आपकी श्रद्धा है. So भगवान says, यो यत श्रद्धा सा एव सह, जिसकी जैसी श्रद्धा वैसी पर्सनालिटी मोल्ड हो ही जाती है. That's easy to see around us, that whatever people believe, that's the personality that they project. Now, what about the sattvic person? The sattvic person lives in the same world. In the same world, but the sattvic person at the back of the mind having all the sansari transactions that we have to do and all our duties and our work and our profession and family, theek hai. But at the back of the mind, there is a deep shraddha in the mind of the sattvic ki Paramatma hai. There is a higher reality. I may not see it, I may not be able to experience it right now, but wo shraddha, that belief I have, and therefore that bhava, that dharana that they have, that manyata, that shraddha, that gives them the sattvic personality. तो अगर हम स्वर्ग के और इस जगत के सुख में श्रद्धा रखते हैं तो फिर उसी में रहेंगे, और परमात्मा में श्रद्धा रखते हैं, yes, there is a higher reality, then the sattvic personality will become, as Krishna had said in the 16th chapter, abhayam. Abhayam meaning without fear. What is there to fear when you know that everything that is around us is nashwar, will be destroyed, including our bodies, and there is nothing to cling on to, and yet there is a reality which is part of me, which cannot be destroyed. That consciousness cannot be destroyed, and that is me. Once you hold on to that truth, then we are not afraid of losing anything, either the material things or our body or the disease of the body or the loved ones. Yes, it is hard, but we come out of that sorrow much faster, having realized that everyone's soul, our partners, our family members, our loved ones and friends who pass away, they have their own journey to go on. And because they are going on to their own journey doesn't mean that they are destroyed and gone and finished. No, we are weeping for ourselves because we have got so used to the comfort and the happiness that they used to bring to us. Our sorrow is not for them. Our sorrow is for ourselves. The moment we realize this, the sattvic personality begins to say, Arey, there is no such thing as real sorrow or real dukkha or a real bereavement or real bhaya, fear of what? So that belief in the Paramatma or the Atma that we are gives that sattvic personality its own particular shade or flavor. And therefore, what you believe in gives you your personality. It's easy to understand. जैसी श्रद्धा वो उसी तरह की चीजों की तरफ खींचा भी चला जाता है. We are attracted to those kind of things. And therefore, the people who are of a sattvic mind, they will say, अच्छा शंकराचार्य ऋषि ने ये कहा है, महात्माओं ने ये कहा है, और ऋषियों ने उपनिषद में वो कहा है, कृष्ण ने क्या कहा है, I want to know. First of all, वो curious हो जाते हैं. Secondly, when they begin to hear through anyone, कोई भी एक माध्यम हो सकता है, कोई टीचर हो, महात्मा हो, गुरु हो, या बुक हो, किताब हो, लाइब्रेरी हो, वीडियो हो, it doesn't matter. When they begin to hear, they begin to like the words of the Shastra, of the Mahatmas, or the Rishis, or the Paramatma himself, as in Krishna. When they begin to like it and they stick on to it, like Arjun has stuck on to the words of Krishna up to 17 chapters without moving. How is it? Because he is absorbing the words and he wants to transform his life. He likes the words of the highest truth of the rishis. Sattvic personality वैसी होती है. Haven't you and I stuck through 17 chapters? हम भी कह सकते हैं भाई हम भी अर्जुन की तरह हैं. हाँ, क्यों नहीं? Because Arjun also started with a lot of confusion and sorrow, and confusion and sorrow is for the mind which is not wise, and he is listening to Krishna just as we are. So a sattvic person अपनी श्रद्धा की वजह से begins to like the words. कुछ कम ही समझ में आए पहले, लेकिन they begin to like the words. तो ये उनकी एक पहचान, एक लक्षण होने लगता है किसका? सात्विक पर्सनालिटी का. Then they begin to involve themselves in सत्संग, कि कोई ग्रुप मिल जाए, कि जहाँ ऐसी बातें होती हो, कि जहाँ कोई थोड़ा सा there is light of wisdom in the words instead of idle gossip or idle talk about the world. So they spend their time in this kind of satsang or reading or tap or meditation, or sometimes they say कि if they are of a slightly rajasic mind, क्योंकि राजसिक सात्विक तामसिक सब मिला हुआ है, मिला जुला है, तो राजसिक कहता है कि मुझे कुछ करना है, देयर इज एन एक्टिविटी ओरिएंटेड. तो वो क्या करते हैं, जिनमें सात्विक होता है राजसिक भी, वो कहते हैं कि लेट मी डू सम दान, चैरिटी, सम चैरिटी वर्क इन माय सोसाइटी, एंड आल्सो स्वाध्याय, लेट मी रीड द स्क्रिप्चर. सो दिस इज ऑल एक्टिविटी लेवल, बट दे आर स्टिल ऑफ अ सात्विक माइंड, अट्रैक्टेड टू स्वाध्याय, रीडिंग, तप, listening to words of wisdom, satsang, group of people collecting around them. This is the kind of thing they are attracted to. Now, in order to take this journey, the sattvic mind doesn't know why they are attracted, but they are. And they take the support of anything, some video, some scripture, some teacher, some group which is going on, some talks which are going on. And they say, I will take this support and I will climb higher. Something I have to change in my life. And in nature also you will notice that all the creepers and all the plants, they take the support of something in order to climb higher. Because when they climb higher, they are struggling to get the maximum sunlight and to grow and to reach out to the sky. Their growth is also a natural way of saying, I want the higher. And the creepers also take the support of another tree or a branch and say, yes, I am climbing. In the same way, the sattvic minded people, they say, climbing up is my goal, I'll take the support of anything. Now, do we always remain sattvic? No, we don't have to berate ourselves ki, I don't always feel sattvic or meditative or contemplative or feel like reading or listening. No, it's not possible. But we are parivartansheel. But Bhagwan is saying, those who do just empty rituals, mindlessly, they are not even aware where their swabhav is coming from. Our swabhav may be rajasic, sometimes even tamasic. You know, when I hate someone, or I blurt in an outburst of anger when I say harsh words, and then I regret it. Yes, there was a Rajasic and Tamasic element for that moment. But I could watch it and I could keep my distance from it and become more alert for next time. That's what the scriptures want us to do. When we are not reading the scriptures, we are not alert. We are not alert about it. That's all. Now, Bhagavan says, as we move on, that all this Lakshana will show you that Sattvic people and Rajasic and Tamasic will be attracted not only to things that are according to their swabhava, but it will reflect their personality. So, for example, a Sattvic person is attracted more towards reading or listening, to words of wisdom, and a Rajasic person may say, okay, let me just go to another party and another one. After that, dekha jayega. Maybe I can attend the class later or whatever. And the Tamasic says that I will just sit at home, make some calls and gossip a lot about some other people. They are all reflecting their likes and dislikes. In the same way, Bhagavan says, do you know that the choice you make in your food, not only your pursuits, but your food also, when you choose, you are reflecting your swabhav or Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. Acha, ye bhi hota hai kya? Yes. So Bhagavan says, in order to see the Lakshan, we will see verse number. By the way, in verse number 5 and 6, if you remember, Bhagavan had said that there are many, many people who do very severe and very cruel and very strong yagya and tapa, like punishing themselves to go on a long fast or a long yatra or a long walk, barefoot walk towards some Bhagwan or up on the hills, or standing on one foot or not eating for day, whatever, some kind of tap. But many of them, Bhagwan say, sorry, I cannot reward them with the highest meaning moving towards the Sattvic. I cannot reward them. Why? Because this ability to have such a strong tapa gives them abhiman, gives them darpa, arrogance and hypocrisy. So he's saying, oh, then it gets neutralized, and I cannot ever have, Krishna says, I cannot have respect for people who do all this achetasaha, this senseless kind of tapa. If you want to do tap, that is rigorous yagya, rigorous effort or purushartha, do it for finding the highest truth. That is your only goal. All other striving in this world is so immaterial. So this is Bhagwan's advice in verses 5 and 6 in chapter 17. Coming to verse number 7. How is it that even food can reflect my personality type? Food, my food choice. Yes, he says, these are indicators, lakshana of your guna. Verse number 7. Aharastvavapi sarvasya trividho bhavati priyaha yagyastapastatha danam tesham bhedamimam shrunu. The food which is dear to me, that means priya to me. If he only had to say, ki, food which is sattvic is good for you, Arjun, you should have sattvic food. No, this is not an Ayurvedic lesson which Krishna is giving Arjun. He is saying the food which is bhavati priyaha, which is priya to you, which is liked by you, that food also has 3 qualities. Yes. So it has 3 qualities of generosity, almsgiving, danam, tesham. The distinction between these 3, Bhagwan is saying, let me explain. In Sattvic, what is happening is, verse number 7. What is the kind of food? The kind of food that we like. Suppose it is fresh and it is juicy and it is not overcooked and not over spicy and it does not lead you to sickness or feeling heavy or bloated or acidic. This is the kind of food which gives you energy. That is sattvic food, and it provides you health. Okay. Why do you need to have sattvic food? Now, sattvic food, if we ask, of course, Bhagwan hasn't mentioned it, but if you ask any Ayurvedic person or naturopathy or people now today, they are a lot into fitness routines, everyone knows that 80% of the food, that if we are attracted to it, we may say, oh, I don't like fresh fruits, but I have it for health reasons. Bhagwan says no, it should be priya to you, then you are sattvic. Fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, pulses, whole grain, not over refined. Okay, I'm just taking this digression to talk about what Ayurvedic people say about sattvic food. So, and sprouts, not highly processed grain but whole grain, and of course dry fruits and seeds and honey and cow milk, not buffalo milk but cow milk. You ask any Ayurvedic person, they'll tell you how and why. Now, food becomes sattvic by in three ways. One, when it is fresh and juicy and it doesn't lead to making you feel heavy. Second, it becomes sattvic when we are eating it not in anger, not when I'm feeling angry or agitated or ambitious, or usne mera business mein loss kiya hai, all those things are playing on my mind and I am having my chapati. That food will turn rajasic in my body. It will give me acidity. So the manner of eating is also making the food sattvic. And what is my thought at the time of eating is making my food sattvic. Do I eat with gratitude? Saying that there are millions of people who go without food and Bhagwan has put food on my plate today. Thank you so much. Do we teach our children this gratitude? If food is ingested with gratitude and calm and a feeling of fulfillment, then it is sattvic. Apart from being, of course, all that fresh and juicy and light. Apart from that, one more thing. Our ancestors, and in fact my own uncles in Varanasi, they will not have food cooked by anyone outside the family or a pandit. Even if it's an outsider, it has to be a pandit who comes to and he does his puja and then he sits down to cook. Why? That means they cannot eat in restaurants and dhabas and hotels? No, they will not touch it. They will not even have a glass of water. Have they spent their whole life like this in this kind of what we think is unrealistic austerity? Yes, they have. Right there in our own families. 2 generations back, 1 generation back. Why? There is a reason for it. Because it is believed, now I am talking about what the Shastras say, it is believed that the food becomes sattvic by the thoughts of the cook also. Not only by the person who is eating it, but also the thoughts and feelings and bhava and vichar of the person who is cooking the food. Agar uska durvichar hai and he is not, first of all, bodily not clean, that of course is out of the question and we don't know, because behind the scenes in the back end of the restaurants and hotels, we don't know whether they are bodily clean and physically clean, we don't know. But of course the food is presented in shining platters, so we have it. But Bhagwan is talking of something deeper. He is saying that the vichar and the bhav, uske man mein agar tamasic bhav hai and there are thoughts of lust or anger or hatred or whatever else is going on, ambition and greed, you see that food that we are ingesting will not have sattvic qualities. This is a very subtle point, and that subtle bhava does transfer to the food. It is an ancient belief, so ancient that if you ask my uncles and cousins in Varanasi who actually have practiced throughout their lives and never eaten outside the food cooked outside the family by caterers or hotels or restaurants, never, and they have led their lives fine. We may think, oh, how is it possible? Yes, it's possible. Why have they done it? Many of them may not know. My cousins may not know about it, but they say, हाँ ये प्रथा है, हमारे परिवार में नहीं होता, बस. They may not know it because, once again, as Krishna said, we practice a lot of things not knowing why. Okay, even that is good enough. At least we practice it. So it's good to know the reason. Sattvic food, it can be contaminated into Rajasic and Tamasic by the thought and bhava and vichar, durvichar of the person who is cooking, of the one who is eating at that moment of eating when we are in durvichar, and of course the quality of food and the quantity. Number 4, quantity. If we are having too much, even if it's the most light and sattvic food, if we are overeating, it's not rocket science to understand that it will lead to rogue. Rogue means not the English rogue, which means rascal, but rogue here means ill health. So it will lead to ill health. Now, our own greed, because we overeat, that will also reflect in our health. But Bhagavan says, listen, even the choice of food you make is telling us a lot about who you are. And therefore he goes on to say about Rajasic food in verse number 8. Ayu sakta bala rogya sukha priti vivardhana rasya snigdha sthira hridya ahara satvika priyaha. So sattvic food, of course, is mentioned here. The food, such food, sattvic again, sorry, not rajasic. Sattvic here is elaborated again. Food that increases your ayu, your lifespan, and it gives you strength, and it gives you meditation, it gives you energy. For what? Energy so that I can sit up and read and meditate. Suppose I eat or overeat or have the wrong kind of food. It's not going to allow me, then I just want to lie down. I cannot have that energy and the freshness, because my whole, let's say the whole focus turns to the churning of the stomach. And therefore I don't have the energy for meditation, for swadhyay, and for satsang. In the middle of the afternoon that we are sitting up and listening to satsang itself means that we are able to sit up. That energy comes only with sattvic food. Otherwise we are falling asleep. Now, that sattvic food gives us not only this energy and good health and lightness and the tej and cheerfulness, but that is the whole purpose, that the food is ingested so that we can not enjoy the food like some bhog, मैं इस खाने का भोग कर लूं, उस flavor का भोग कर लूं. You know that greed that we have for different flavors, that's our senses. Our senses are talking, not we. We actually need just enough for the body to subsist, for the body and soul to hold on together. For what? Hold on together long enough so that I have the opportunity to read, to find out the words of the scriptures, to listen to the highest truth, to find out what is the highest truth while I am still living. Otherwise, I have no energy for all of this. So, sattvic food, this is the purpose. And for tamasic food, now he goes on for rajasic, explaining the consequences. What is rajasic food and its consequences in verse number 9. Katvam lalavvanat yushna tikshna ruksha vidahinaha ahara rajasasyeshtaha dukha shoka maya pradaha. Yes, there is food that can give dukha also. Dukha shoka maya pradaha, he has used the word. Here dukh means what? Ill health, rogue, discomfort, acidity, sense of bloating, a sense of that, all that will come to us. How? It's coming through food. You mean to say that not only people can disturb my mind, but even food can lead me to this kind of discomfort which Bhagavan calls dukha and shoka? That is dukha of the body actually. Dukha, that is pain in the body. Yeah, there is. Because this is how Bhagavan says, Katvam lalavvana tyushnaha, which means food which is strong in flavors, very, very sour, very, very bitter, or very strong in salt. Like you have these namkeens, you know, these namkeen flavors, you get lots of these packaged namkeens nowadays. All of that are very, very strong in sodium and salt, which is very bad for the heart and for cholesterol. So we can have a lot of namkeen as in saltish, very hot food, spicy, pungent, burning. Now this kind of food which people like, very hot chili kind of food. And what are the kinds of food that come under this? Bhagavan of course hasn't explained, he hasn't given a list of food items, but we can find it in Ayurveda. In Ayurveda, this kind of strong flavored foods which are too pungent and too strong for the human palate, for the human health, are spices. Of course we know too much of spices, pepper, spinach. Spinach is supposed to be good, but it's there in this list. Onion, garlic, tea, coffee, tobacco, soda, alcohol, chocolate, pickles, refined sugar. Now, we have a lot of this camouflaged in different kind of dishes. But why are we having so much of it? Because they make a lot of delicacies out of it. A lot of delicacies in the market are available using all this. So soda and alcohol and chocolate and pickles and refined sugars in everything. Sodium and salt is in every nashta. So Bhagwan says, what is the result? The result is this dukkha shoka which he is talking about is actually causing us restlessness or excessive energy. When you have too much of onion or garlic or even excess caffeine or alcohol, suddenly you get a spurt of energy. And you say, yes, I can do this. And then we talk excessively, endlessly and aimlessly, or we get restless about doing something or the other. Okay, let's go for a drive. Let's do something. It's the body which is creating that restlessness through the food and passing that restlessness to the mind. See the connection. And therefore, in many of our homes, even today, many of our homes, and I keep citing the example of our Varanasi home, the onion and garlic is not cooked at all it's not in the cuisine at all. Unless you have some bone issues or osteoporosis issues, and blood thickening issues, then it is used as a medicine. Food can be used, onion and not tobacco, but onion and garlic, etc. can be used as medicine. Even alcohol is used as medicine for people who have lung congestion or something like that. But taken as medicine is not harmful, but we take it as food and then we relish it. Remember the word Bhagwan used, priyaha. Is this food priya to you? If we relish it, we will have too much of it. And the result is that dukkha shoka, which means after we have had too much of it, you know what happens? We don't feel a sense of prasannata, that happiness, that lightness, that cheerfulness, which you feel after sattvic food. That prasannata is not there. You feel heavy and bloated. And then you say, okay, let me lie down for some time. And then there's burning. And after many years of ingesting this kind of food, rog or disease is bound to follow. So Rajasic food is leading to shoka and dukkha. Now Bhagwan here is not giving some kind of an Ayurvedic treatise. For this we have other scriptures. The Ayurveda itself is another scripture in our long tradition. What he is trying to say is, your personality of Rajasic or Sattvic or Tamasic will drive you to relish those kind of food and activities and pursuits and hobbies which are akin to your swabhava. And therefore, watch out. If you want to change, yes, it's possible to change the food habit outwardly, to change the quality of mind. Every Ayurveda doctor believes this. And what about Tamasic food? So Tamasic food, Bhagwan says, if you are attracted to that kind of food, then that kind of food we can see in verse number 10. Yata yamam gatarasam putiparyushitam cha yat uchishtam cha medhyam bhojanam tamasapriyam. Food that is stale, strong smelling, putrid, and has been kept on the shelf for a long time. That you see some kinds of cheese in the Western world, they keep it for what they call maturing, or just like alcohol. Alcohol is also kept on the shelf for months and years together for maturing. Now this so-called maturing is actually making it stale. So alcohol and stale cheese and seafood and fermented drinks. A fermented drink is what? Alcohol, right? Yeah. But it could also be vinegar, and also food that has yeast or fermentation in it, like bread or pastries. It is all called tamasic food. How much of this we relish, and how much of it we actually go out to seek out. See, once in a way, everyone has some of all this. We are not talking about that. We are saying those who relish it and want to and crave for it and start craving for it, that begins to reflect their personality. And what is the consequence? What is the consequence of having such food? Of course, it will lead to sickness. That goes without saying. But in the initial stages, it leads to a lot of slowness. We become slow. First of all, our senses and our mind, which we will observe, will go slow later. In the very first place, our digestive system goes slow. Try having very, very refined atta is called what? Maida. Refined flour, maida, out of which they make cakes and pastries and bread and that kind of stuff. And cookies. If we have too much of it, the first thing that will slow down is the digestion. And we are talking about the antahkaran. Finally, the scriptures are about the quality of our antahkaran, about the quality of our mind and personality, which is important for us to take with us beyond this body when we die. Keeping that in mind, we say, yes, it causes inertia and slowness and dullness. And that dullness of the body is transferred to the dullness of the mind. Too many hamburgers and bagels and pizzas. Yeah, too much of it. So it causes dullness of mind. Now, and also all the foods that are packaged, be careful, they are laden with preservatives. So these preservatives are also harming the body, and if the body is harmed, the mind will be harmed. And very often we are fond of frozen foods. So it could be ice creams or frozen desserts or whatever. Frozen foods are also put in this, apart from baked food and fermented food. Frozen foods are also put in this list. And not to forget non-vegetarian food. That Bhagavan has not put in Sattvic. Bhagavan, in fact, it's not in this list at all in Bhagavad Gita. But in Ayurveda, non-vegetarian food is not in Sattvic, not in Rajasic. It is in Tamasic. So Tamasic food, which is the worst kind of food, according to the Ayurveda, they put non-vegetarian food. So now, the quality of food, the quantity of food, the bhava and the vichara and the thought and the prasannata or the hatred or the bhava at the time of eating, and the vichara and bhava and thought process of the one who's cooking. These four factors are deciding how our personality is going to be shaped. And therefore, the more traditional people, they will not eat in restaurants, or at least not too often. If they can cut it down, so much the better. How do we know? The bhava of the person who is cooking. How? We have no way of knowing. And therefore, that's very scary, because that is subtly, that quality of sattva, rajas, tamas of that mind of the cook is subtly passed on to us. Believe it or not, it is passed on to us in a subtle way through the food. Okay, so now Bhagavan says, not only food, but the personality types that we are also attracted to the kind of pursuit or work that we do. We will choose according to our swabhava. Swabhavajaha, as Bhagavan had said. That means even work has sattvic, rajasic and tamasic qualities. Work is work, isn't it? If somebody tells me, okay, go and teach that class today, the teacher is absent, go and substitute for her and teach in that class. Work is work. No, you will still find in the quality of work of three different people, there is a sattvic, rajasic and tamasic quality. Believe it or not. So if I am a mason, and you know the old story, my favorite story, if you're a mason and the one who is taken a contract, the contractor says, okay, we are making a temple today, come on, get ready. And we go to the site of the temple, and we are all masons and we are all laying bricks. The work is the same. What makes it sattvic, rajasic or tamasic? So in this story, karma, that is work, right? So in this story that we have heard, I think several times before, is where a reporter goes and asks at the temple site, because it's like the Ayodhya temple, let's say, which is being constructed in a very historic fashion on a historic site, and the reporter says, "Aapko kaisa lag raha hai? Aap kya bana rahe hain?" So the first person says, "I am laying bricks." He feels good that he is doing it for Ram, Bhagwan Ram. Shraddha sab mein hai. We are not going to doubt that. But he says, "I am laying bricks." And then the reporter goes and asks another person, and he says, "I am making a pillar. I'm laying bricks to make a pillar." So he has this slightly grander view, and he says, "I'm doing it for Ram." And the first person who is doing it with Shraddha still says that I'm doing it for livelihood. I need the money. The second person says, "I want to be the best mason in this, and I want to be rewarded by Prime Minister Modi, because I know he comes to all the workforce after any Bhavan Nirman, and he always felicitates all the workers. I want to be the one felicitated. I want to be there." Okay. The third person who was asked, "What are you doing?" He says, "I am worshipping Ram by building a temple." And in his hand is the same tool and the same cement and the same brick. Work outwardly looks the same. The bhava, the manyata, the shraddha, and the dharana which a person holds in the mind is the only reflection of their true personality of sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. So they're all laying bricks, and the first one says, he's completely overwhelmed by the fact that it is for Bhagwan. Whether somebody recognizes it or not, it's for Bhagwan. And he has got a grander view. It's a temple. But right now he can't see the temple. What he can see is one brick above the next and layers of cement. That's all you can see. But he says, "No, this is my temple." And the second one had said, "I want felicitation." Very, very rajasic and ambitious. I want an end result. मुझे फल दिखना चाहिए. मेरी बढ़ाई, मान और सम्मान होना चाहिए. That's the kind of rajasic person. And tamasic, of course, is, "Let me get my meal today. Okay? I hope I am paid 400 rupees so that I can cook a meal for my family." Not looking beyond the very, very basic. And if I get a chance, I will move from Ayodhya and I will move to another city to do the mason's work if I get a higher salary. Okay, so I'm working only for that. Tamasic. Okay, great. You mean to say that this applies only to masons? No, it applies to everything we do in our lives. Everything. We are looking after our families, holding professions, doing leadership roles, training people, whatever our job requires us to do. I'm not sure. Whatever. In our professions and in our community work that we take up for charity or for environment, we are all involved in karma. Karma we are doing. What is the dharana, the shraddha, and the quality of mind? So Bhagavan says in verse number 11, our endeavors, he says our endeavors, our karma are also of three kinds. Verse number 11. Aphalakankshakshibhir yagyo vidhishto ya ijyate yashtavyameveti manaha samadhaya sa satvikaha. That endeavor, that work, that karma, that effort which is offered by us for anything, community service, family, profession, whatever, neighbor, we're all busy people, right? What are we busy with? So that's karma. That karma which is offered without aphalakangsha, phal ki akanksha na hote hue. And then that is what has been ordained by the scriptures, and with a firm faith that this is my duty. I'm doing it as duty. Do not attach any more strings to it about phala, says the sattvic mind when he does work. Which means what? Selfless seva. Seva karo. But sometimes we have a great sense of obligation that we impose upon even our own family members. कि मैंने तेरे लिए ये किया है, हमने आपके लिए वो किया है, मैंने मुश्किल के समय में ऐसा किया वैसा किया. ये हमारे मन में, हम चाहे बोले चाहे ना बोले, ये हमारे मन में अगर धारणा आ गई that I have served someone and that other person has looked the other way in times of my difficulty, and this situation will always arise. It will always arise where you feel that you have offered more than your fair share of effort to somebody in the family, in your community, in the workforce, to the colleagues in the office, and the other people have not reciprocated the way they should. It will happen because that is their swabhava. And therefore, we lose our sense of harmony and sukha because their response is not conducive to what we expect. Now, aphalakangsha means doing work without that expectation. Drop the expectation. And so, such a person, sattvic person who is doing karma, is not anxious about karma phal. And therefore, he does all the activities which are needed for our nitya karma also, like puja and bathing and cleanliness. Nitya karma, that has to be done daily, yes. Naimitya karma, whatever is obligatory. I have to, if I have a family, if I have elders in the family, or if I have sick people in the family, or in my community, or in my neighborhood, there are some obligations I cannot avoid. That's called naimitya karma. I will do it. Again, without expectation. Nitya karma, naimitya karma, and okay. By naimitya karma, we also mean that sometimes we are obligated to take part in the ceremonial rituals of family members. And of course, we must. So that is all naimitya. Now, what about the phala that a non-sattvic mind is hanging on to? कि non-sattvic mind says, नहीं मुझे फल चाहिए, I have put in so much effort. अगर वो ऐसा करता है तो उसको याद रखना चाहिए कि जो फल आ रहा है ना, which I am expecting, that is also anitya. It is also going to fade away or have no consequence after some time. And the person, that's me, who is making the effort or doing the work with this body and mind, of course I need my body and mind to do any kind of work in this world. I am using that body and mind which is also anitya, nashwar, impermanent, destructible. So what are we getting so hung up about? The body which is doing the work is also anitya. The phal which I am going to get, expecting and going to get out of it is also anitya. And therefore, our strong connection between karma and karma phala is causing us to become very, very rajasic. Not sattvic but rajasic, which is the theme of the next verse. Verse number 12. Abhisandhaya tu phalam dambharthamapi chaivayata ijjate bharata shrestha tam yagyam vidhi rajasam. That sacrifice, now work has been called, that karma that we do, the kriya that we do, that effort, endeavor has been called yagya for the purpose of this scripture, okay? So not to get confused. Yagya, we'll use that word to mean the work that we do. Now this yagya which has been offered, Bhagavan says, seeking the fruit. Dambhartamapi chaivayata, seeking the fruit, or worse than that, seeking exhibitionism, कि मैंने ये किया है, देखो, दिखावे के लिए, ostentation के लिए, that becomes extremely rajasic. That means कि मैं ऐसा करूँगा तो people will appreciate me, लोकेशना, and मेरा नाम होगा, मेरी मान, मेरी बढ़ाई होगी. And that's why in India we have these big fat celebrations. मेरा पंडाल इनसे बड़ा होगा, मेरी बेटी की शादी इनसे भी बड़े भव्य स्तर पर होगी. It will be on a grand scale, and that makes a person, because we are in that competitive mood, to be extremely exhibitionist, कि मुझे ये दिखाना है, क्योंकि फिर मुझे ये भी साबित करना है, बड़े बड़े रिचुअल्स करके, बड़े बड़े पूजा अर्चना करके, मुझे ये भी साबित करना है कि मैं तपस्वी हूँ, मैं संयमी हूँ, मैं बहुत धर्मात्मा हूँ, मैं दानी हूँ, मैं सद्गुणी हूँ. You see, I am very religious. अरे whom do we want to exhibit these kind of things to people outside? And do their opinions matter? Yes, they matter to people who are hung up on lokeshna. Eshna for lok who are hung up on approval and appreciation and man and badhai from others, and they gain happiness or self-esteem out of that. Now that is a very rajasic way of doing work. Bhagavan says, don't do anything which is a dikhawa, pakhand, dambha, hypocrisy. It makes no difference. Next day they'll all forget ki acha aapne aisa kiya tha. Makes no difference. After a few words of approval, and if it is on Facebook, then after a few words of appreciation, nobody even remembers what you did. So why don't you offer that tremendous energy and effort and skill that you have, offer it to Bhagwan in a way that you can reach Bhagwan? Why squander it in this dambha, this hypocrisy and abhiman of this world? That's why, my party should be better than the person who threw the party over there. And now I'm obligated to so-and-so because they took me on a very nice trip to South Africa. So now I must reciprocate, and all that goes on in the mind about giving and taking for मान and बढ़ाई and सम्मान कि मेरा कोई बढ़ाई कर दे, सम्मान कर दे मेरा. अरे भाई क्यों? How long and for what? It is achetasa, Bhagavan saying senseless. A lot of effort, lot of energy and a lot of spiritual energy dissipated in these distractions. So Bhagavan is saying, ये राजसिक लोग होते हैं लेकिन ऐसे. He knows about it. In verse number 12 we are saying, dambhartamapi cheta chaiva yatra. That's how they work. So they are far from divine. Okay. Now, if that is their way of living, what are they actually satisfying at the end of the day? They have not satisfied their spiritual urge, if they have any. If they may have a seed of it. They have not given a chance for the spiritual unfoldment. They have only satisfied their vanity. मेरी vanity कि मेरी बढ़ाई हो जाए and community में मेरा I should appear to be successful or dani or great sadguni doing religious work. Okay, Bhagavan says, I'm not impressed, says Krishna. I'm not impressed by this rajasic effort. चाहे जितना कर लो, and that will not reach you to me. Number 13, कौन सा बचा? The karma which is of tamasic kind. Everything can be divided into 3. So now this 3, the triangle, it encapsulates everything that goes on in the world. Now the work or effort or tap or yagya, as it's mentioned, of tamasic kind is what? It is in verse number 13. Vidhihinam mantrahinam adakshinam shraddha virahitam yagyam tamasam parichakshate. Those activities which are not ordained in the scriptures, which are contrary to what the scriptures have said, which means if the scripture said कि आपको meditate करना चाहिए, but I resist and I detest meditation. Now, so what am I going to do in my free time? So in my free time, I'm going to turn on loud music and maybe make a few phone calls to get some information about people's personal lives or whatever. I am doing something that is not ordained by the scriptures. That is virihinam srishtanam. Now, such people, they lead what kind of life? In their life, there is no place for mantra. Mantra ucharan, why so much importance given in our scriptures? Because science, and I have mentioned a lot of research which has been done in Germany, in Russia, etc., even in England, about the vibrational power of mantras. They said for 6,000 years, how is it that these mantras have had some power or the other, and what is this power? And therefore now they have very, very sensitive audit tools for, they call auditory tools, I suppose, very, very sensitive, and they can see the displacement of the air vibrations, because any sound is nothing but the displacement of air around us, and that vibration in the air has got a sattvic or a tamasic or a rajasic quality. So if you see very, very loud discordant music, that is also a displacement, that's also a vibration. Why is it that it doesn't give me peace? Because it's a very rajasic sound. And sattvic sound, when mantras are chanted in the most beautiful and in the way which is vidhi के साथ, जो शास्त्र में विधि कही गई है उसके साथ, then you will see automatically the mind begins to calm down. Whether we know anything about mantras, whether we have learned them, doesn't matter. In the presence of this sound vibration which they call mantra, there is an effect on the mind, on the quality of the mind. This research has already proved. But a tamasic person will say that mantra क्यों करना है? See, mantra also comes in the realm of action, of kriya, karma. Mantra क्यों पढ़ना है? It's okay, I'm busy with other things. And also they are mantrahinam, without mantra, and also they are devoid of mantras and gifts. Devoid of gifts means not easily giving away charity, not giving away gifts easily, and not having enough faith. So doing everything without faith. Now, which means what? That they have a strong belief that I may have money, I may have knowledge, I may have food, I may have enough time and energy, but why should I share and distribute all this to others? This is my wealth. So wealth is not only money, remember, it is your energy and skill and knowledge, or whatever you have gained in this life has to be distributed and shared. Now, they have a belief that I don't need to share any of this, it's mine. So उनकी क्रिया उस तरफ जाती नहीं है. Not interested. Shraddha virahitam yagyam. Their work is without shraddha. God है कि नहीं? Who cares? Who cares is what the tamasic mind says. Tamasam parichakshate, and which is devoid of faith, shraddha. Okay, so without shraddha, without the knowledge of anything higher in this world, how is this tamasic kriya going to lead to any good for anyone? No, it's not going to lead to the welfare of anyone else in the first place. So tamasic kriya will be work done grudgingly. Arey karna hai to kar do. That's why sometimes we say that we may want to become very sattvic in our behavior, but in the way we use our words, sometimes we become very rajasic, very harsh. Why? Because we see that the shraddha with which we want to do whatever kriya for community or charity or environment or welfare of others, whatever project, or for the family, let's say, and we find that others who are involved in it, suddenly they are showing a lot of indifference and carelessness and negligence and tamas, and we fly into a temper. Hold on. Bhagavan says not everyone will have the same noble qualities. Do not expect them. And by retorting in anger or feeling resentment, and we all do it, and we have found ourselves in a situation where with all earnestness and shraddha you want to do something for the welfare of family or community or at the workplace, and there is what you see around, suddenly in some co-worker or a family member, you see abject negligence, indifference, carelessness about the same project. And you say, what? How can that person be so careless? I feel so strongly about it. You may feel strongly about it. We have to protect our own sattvic behavior. Watch out even for that outburst. Because the outburst is not going to lead to anything except, of course, friction between these people. Relationships will be spoiled. There will be friction. Mood is spoiled. All that will happen outside. But our own sattvic way of using our words, our vachan, our vak, is also important for us to protect, no matter what the provocation. So Bhagavan says that the effort that you make towards attaining the highest, that is tapas, and the words that we use, that is vak, vachan, and how we use our words is also of three qualities. That's not very difficult to understand. Even the words that we use will have three qualities of sattvic words or rajasic or tamasic. And what about tapas? In the next three verses, Bhagavan talks about tapas. Tapas, how is it different from yajna? Yajna is effort or purusharth in the world. Tapas is any effort or any endeavor done to attain a higher goal. Like the tap for attaining like this stuff that we are doing right now. Yes, it's called Gita Yagya, but it's a kind of tap. That means for 18 months, without fail, if we stick to the same scripture and say that, yes, I want to know more and I want to continue to hear this until there is some kind of a transformation, until it sinks in, until it percolates. But I like to listen to Krishna's word. Whatever it is, for 18 months, not many stick on. Out of lakhs of people around us that we can see in the very societies that we live in, lakhs of them. This is a kind of tap. Tap means effort for anything higher. That is also sattvic, rajasic and tamasic quality. Bhagavan says yes. That is, you can do tap just by at the body level and at the speech and man level. So let's see how this pans out and how it is explained ahead in the next 3 verses by Krishna next time. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om, Harihi Om, Harihi Om.